In 1999, the world was looking in the wrong direction. People were hoarding cash and canned food, bracing for a catastrophic worldwide computer crash. They were lining up at video stores to rent chunky VHS tapes of The Matrix, terrified of a fictional artificial intelligence. But beneath the chaotic, caffeinated tech culture of the turning millennium, a real Matrix was quietly being assembled. It wasn't being built in a secret government bunker. It was born from the minds of three engineers who used to sit in a Denny's diner, dreaming about a future where personal computers could generate immersive, three-dimensional graphics. They named their startup Nvidia, a nod to the Latin word for envy, hoping their future creations would make the entire industry green with jealousy. But by 1999, the dream was almost dead. The company had laid off the vast majority of its workforce. They were teetering on the edge of complete bankruptcy, fighting against massive, entrenched corporations. They had to bet absolutely everything on one final, impossible-seeming venture. And so, they released a piece of silicon known as the GeForce 256. Overlooked by almost everyone except hardcore tech enthusiasts, it was marketed as the world's first graphics processing unit, or GPU. To understand what happened next, you have to look at the invisible architecture of computing. At the time, the entire tech industry believed the central processing unit, the CPU, was the undisputed king. A CPU is incredibly smart, but it processes tasks sequentially. It acts like one giant, brilliant soldier capable of executing highly complex orders, but strictly one at a time. Nvidia's new GPU was something completely different. It was an army of thousands of smaller soldiers, attacking massive visual problems simultaneously through a method called parallel computing. The GeForce 256 took the immense strain of rendering lighting and shapes off the CPU, allowing game developers to push more polygons and create staggering, previously unimaginable detail. When gamers loaded up Quake 3 Arena or Unreal Tournament, it felt like a revelation. It birthed the modern era of competitive esports, eventually fueling global phenomena like the League of Legends World Championship and powering the massive streaming infrastructures of platforms like Twitch. But while the world thought Nvidia was just a video game company, its founder, Jensen Huang, saw a hidden mechanism inside his own invention. In 2006, Huang made a decision that baffled the entire financial world. He released a software toolkit called CUDA. This platform fundamentally changed how Nvidia's GPUs operated, unlocking their massive parallel computing power for tasks entirely outside the realm of gaming. It was a monumental, agonizingly slow gamble. For a full decade, Wall Street analysts questioned this massive financial drain. They looked at the billions being poured into CUDA and valued it at precisely $0 in Nvidia's market cap. Nobody was using it. Nobody understood why a graphics card company was trying to reinvent the very nature of how computer programs were written. Then came 2012, the explosion. An event now known in the tech underworld as the Big Bang of artificial intelligence. For years, scientists had been trying to build deep learning models. These software architectures, which rely on billions of digital neurons and trillions of connections, required a level of computational power that traditional CPUs simply could not handle. They choked under the immense workload. But a handful of researchers at places like Google, Stanford, and New York University had a revelation. The massively parallel architecture designed to render a hyper-realistic muzzle flash in a video game was the exact same mathematical engine needed to train artificial neural networks. It was a flawless, accidental synergy. A researcher named Alex Krzyzewski took Nvidia's GPUs and used them to power a neural network called AlexNet. He entered a highly prominent image recognition contest. His network, trained on 1 million images, utterly obliterated handcrafted software written by the world's top vision expert. The paradigm shifted overnight. Computers were no longer just executing code. They were learning, adapting, and perceiving vast amounts of data. By 2015, AI achieved superhuman levels of perception in speech and image recognition, driven entirely by deep neural networks running on Nvidia silicon. Jensen Huang realized they had struck the mother lode. He aggressively pivoted his massive organization. He changed the company from the bottom all the way to the top. Every single chip they designed became focused on one singular goal: artificial intelligence. In 2016, Huang personally delivered the world's very first DGX-1 AI supercomputer. He handed this system, packed with 8 cutting-edge GPUs, over to a small newly formed research lab called OpenAI. That single machine was the spark. It was the foundational hardware used to harness GPUs and train the earliest iterations of ChatGPT, but Nvidia's path was not a straight line to dominance. They made aggressive moves that ended in spectacular failure. In the early 2010s, they tried to conquer the smartphone market with a line of processors called Tegra. They quickly realized mobile phones were a dead end for them, and they abandoned the market entirely. But in the world of high-tech, nothing is truly wasted. Those very same Tegra chips found a new life. Today, they are the brains powering the massive fleets of autonomous robots moving millions of packages inside Amazon's vast warehouses. Nvidia also navigated the chaotic boom-and-bust cycle of cryptocurrency. When digital currencies exploded, crypto miners realized GPUs were the ultimate tool for mining. They bought out global supplies, sending the prices of graphics cards into the stratosphere and leaving millions of dedicated gamers out in the cold. But even as the crypto market crashed and gaming revenues plummeted, Nvidia was quietly fortifying its grip on something much bigger. In late 2022, ChatGPT was unleashed upon the public. It amassed over 100 million users in a matter of months, demonstrating the terrifying and transformative power of generative AI. Tech giants entered a state of sheer panic. The race to build large language models began, and suddenly, computing capacity became the ultimate currency of Silicon Valley. Companies desperately scrambled to fill their data centers with thousands of Nvidia's A100 chips. Microsoft openly boasted about using 10,000 A100s to train ChatGPT, and Nvidia doesn't sell these in single units. They ship them in massive server boards containing 8 GPUs each, commanding a staggering price tag of nearly $200,000. They had achieved total market dominance. But immense power comes with an invisible, razor-thin edge of vulnerability. For all its trillion-dollar might, Nvidia possesses a critical flaw. They design the most advanced chips on Earth, but they do not manufacture them. They rely almost entirely on a single entity, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. Nearly every piece of silicon driving the global AI revolution is produced on an island caught directly in the crosshairs of intense geopolitical tension. The biggest risk to Nvidia isn't a competitor. It is the fragile relationship between superpowers and the chilling question of whether China will move to take over Taiwan. This vulnerability sent shockwaves through the United States government. Terrified of losing the artificial intelligence arms race, the U.S. passed the CHIPS Act, allocating $52 billion to heavily incentivize chip manufacturing on American soil. In a desperate bid for redundancy, TSMC began spending $40 billion to construct fabrication plants in the Arizona desert. Simultaneously, the geopolitical war entered the boardroom. The United States enacted sweeping export controls, outright banning the sale of Nvidia's leading-edge AI chips, including the A100, to mainland China. Overnight, a market that accounted for about a quarter of Nvidia's revenue became a highly regulated battleground. The company was forced to turn itself upside down, rapidly re-engineering its hardware just to comply with federal law. Yet, the machine continues to accelerate. The silicon that powers human-like chatbots is simultaneously driving innovations that redefine life and death. Nvidia's technology recently shattered a world record in genomic sequencing, diagnosing rare conditions fast enough to secure a life-saving heart transplant for a 13-year-old boy and identifying anti-seizure medication for a 3-month-old infant. They are redefining reality itself. In 2018, Nvidia introduced RTX and a technology called ray tracing, simulating the exact physical pathways of light. To make it work, they unleashed generative AI inside the game. The computer calculates just a fraction of the pixels, and the AI instantly hallucinates the rest, filling in the missing pieces of the puzzle in real time. This technology is now the foundation of the Omniverse, a massive simulation platform. Today, hundreds of massive corporations are using Nvidia's architecture to build digital twins of their factories, predicting climate patterns and running autonomous vehicles through millions of miles of virtual roads before they ever touch real asphalt. It is the ultimate convergence. Computer graphics, robotics, physics simulation, and artificial intelligence all fused into a single, terrifyingly powerful entity. What began 25 years ago as a desperate gamble to render smoother polygons on a computer screen has become the invisible infrastructure of the modern world. The GPU didn't just level up gaming, it ignited an era of synthetic intelligence. The hardware that once sat quietly inside a teenager's bedroom is now the beating heart of a global arms race. Nvidia built the engine of the new reality, and now we are all living inside it. But if you think this is where the trail ends, you're missing the bigger picture. The true scale of this goes much deeper, which is exactly what we uncovered in how Google killed ChatGPT in 2 years.